I want to talk to you about an apartment deal that we closed about a year ago. You haven't heard a lot about it because I did this one with partners. It's the second one I bought, fourth one I've gone after. That was 2 years ago too. Bought this one with partners, and because it's me and 6 other partners, I don't talk about who the partners are or how the deal does because I want to keep it confidential. So, but it was interesting. I'll walk you through this. This was it's a 29-unit building right about 4 blocks from the University of Detroit, 4 blocks east of the University of Detroit, right on McNichol. Unbelievable story on this building. The history is cloudy, so I'll tell you the sexy story that I heard, and I'll pretend like it's true. Out-of-state buyers bought the note. Guys in Portland, Maine, bought the note for this building a couple of years ago. No properties in the city of Detroit at all. These guys are professional. They're a huge private equity fund. They are professional commercial property retailers. They buy these things. They buy portfolios of properties, buy the notes, hold them, foreclose on them, take possession, clean them out, gut them, turn them over, and sell them. That's their model. They didn't have any properties in the city of Detroit. I've subsequently seen their only other property in the city of Detroit and know why they don't have properties in Detroit. They don't pick them very well. Well, they want this. The story is, the untold story, the secret story is, that the lender, they were buying their last batch of notes. So the lender stuck this property in, they just wanted to get rid of it. It's a real dog, falling down, semi-condemned, and these guys didn't want it. When they closed on it, they realized they had a property in Detroit. They were property owners. So they said, okay, well, we don't know anything about this bar, but we know how to do this, so we're going to do the same thing we've always done. So they basically cleaned the place out. It was almost vacant as it was, falling down, rehab the bejesus out of this thing. That's the back view. You saw the front view. This is flat out the nicest apartment building I've ever seen. They tore all the electrical out, all the plumbing out, tore every apartment down to the studs.
Jeremy got out of my chair.
Tore the roof off, gutted the hallways, and they redid everything. Brand new kitchens, brand new bathrooms. This is the nicest apartment building I've ever seen. I mean, it's beyond belief. It looks like it's a brand new building. Well, the problem is that it's in the city of Detroit. Well, they bought too high, and they put way too much into it. And so they were trying to sell this building for like $50,000 a unit, like $900,000 or something ridiculous like that. Well, it languished on the market for a really, really long time. So the next thing is, how did I find the deal? Well, I went screaming from this when my broker told me about it. Josh Oddie, you guys know Josh Oddie, the apartment real estate management guy. He's the only guy I deal with because he actually owns commercial property, he owns rental property. Josh, 2 years before I went after this building, said, you got to look at this building, you got to look at this building. I said, no, I'm not going to Detroit. It's not my business plan. I have no idea how to do it. I have no idea how to price it or whatever. I don't want to manage a building in Detroit, no way. So I literally ran screaming away from this building and just didn't want anything to do with it. He kept coming at me and said, Dennis, you got to look at this building. Dennis, you got to look at this building. And I looked at it finally and I said, wow, it's not a bad building. So I said, okay, let's dance. Well, it turns out they had it listed for $895,000 at first, which again, they were smoking crap, for 18 months without a single even look until I wanted to look at the building. And I wasn't going to give them $895,000 for the building. So what I did was looked at the deal further. The interesting thing is you have to look at the story for a multifamily property. You've got to look at what's happening with it. This is really interesting because the property, Josh Oddie, the broker on this deal, who was selling it, was also the guy that managed the property while going through the rehab. So he and the owners hooked up like on day 2 of their ownership and have owned the property ever since. So presumably if I trust Josh, I know the numbers he's given me are the truth because he's been there ever since day 1. So I know what's been going on. I know the rehab. I know who's been looking at the rehab. I know the rehab has been done right. So it's really important. I tell people it's really important to understand the story for any building you're going for that's multifamily because the story is going to tell you a lot about whether it's a deal or not. So I looked at the story. A rent survey. You want to talk about the number one problem that I didn't do on my first building? I didn't even know what a rent survey was until my first building. Did a rent survey on this building to make sure, because again, a bunch of out-of-state Yahoo owners that don't know anything about this market, they don't know anything about Detroit, selling a building for $200,000 more than it's worth. They probably don't know what the rents are either. Sure enough, they didn't. So Josh, as the property manager, was telling them, lower your price and lower your rents, and you'll fill the building up. They're saying, no, 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 you can get $800 for a one bedroom by the University of Detroit, and they didn't. They weren't. So finally, they figured out what the right rents were. They lowered them at the same time, filled the building up. And we looked at actual performance numbers, but because it was a rehab situation, I started looking at this building before it was done. And so as they're finishing off units, they lower the rents, they're bringing them online. That's a whole different cash flow analysis. It's not steady state. You aren't jumping in the river, moving river with an ongoing business, but it's a gradual uptick on the rents you're getting. Plus, you got to factor in vacancy, because vacancies aren't going to happen. Then we looked at what our projections ought to be going forward. Again, based on, okay, we're laying on this many units, and by closing, we'll have this many online. What's it going to look like going forward? With what's vacancy in a really, really nice building in the city of Detroit? Thought we had our arms around that pretty well. We were wrong. Other due diligence. We also looked at obviously just the standard stuff. I know people that buy apartment buildings that don't get title insurance. I think that's really a bad idea. So title insurance is critical. We did the legal analysis, liens, and all that kind of stuff, which are part of the title. Then we did a phase 1 environmental. A phase 1 environmental is not required, obviously, if you buy a building on seller financing. But if you ever want to finance it with the bank someday, refinance it, they're going to do a phase 1. So when you want to find out if you've got a love canal underneath your property now, before you buy it, or when you try to get bank financing. So do a phase 1. So how do we finance the deal, fund the deal? Well, we got a bunch of people, we stood on the campfire and sang songs and did kumbaya. So this was the first syndication that I did. This is absolutely the perfect first-time apartment buyer building. I wish I would have bought this as my first building. I didn't have the money to write the check. I think we raised just under $200,000 between the partners. And basically, I just put together a package. I got a pitch package that works really well. It's not as boring as a private placement memorandum, pictures and stuff. We talked about it, had a couple conference calls, answered questions, went back and forth on projections, and got 6 people interested. And we all tossed in money. There was no preferential equity or anything like that. You got percentage of the equity based on your dollar contribution, no monkey business, and we closed. It was actually very smooth. The fun thing is that we all got together for due diligence together. We treated it as a ride along kind of thing. So it was me and 6 other partners, and one of the partners had his wife come along with some of the things. And so we had this tiny conference room crammed with a bunch of people, with 8 people doing due diligence on the building. It was actually a lot of fun. You double check the numbers, triple check the numbers, but everybody got to ride along and figure out how you do the process. It was a lot of fun. Exit strategy. Well, we already have one. It's a long-term hold. It's a great building in a pretty good area. So we don't have a long-term strategy. No real time horizon. We do have some constraints with seller financing that we're going to have to deal with here in the next couple of years, but that should not impact the time horizon of our ownership, which is kind of good, because the building is actually, the returns are good in quality. We did have to talk about partner transitions though. Somebody wants their money out, how do they get their money out? Well, since it's not we didn't do a private placement memorandum, we haven't registered this building, not done a tenant in common interest or anything like that. So we have to create a mechanism in the operating agreement so any of the partners can share or can sell their interest for whatever they can get it for, but it's a finite piece of equity. They can either sell for more than they bought or less, whatever they want, but it's the same percentage of equity if they sell it. And the existing partners have the first right of refusal. So, and there are actually 2 of us. I'm one of them, and there's another guy that we're going to arm wrestle over buying the first share when it comes up, because we don't think that a piece of this is going to go internal whenever it comes up. Okay, how did it work out? And did we make money, or how much did we make? Yes, it worked out, and yes, we made money. Returns were below projections. In fact, they were about half of what we thought they would be. Last year was the worst year in the rental business of my entire career. The building that I own in Warren, in this time last year, August and September, I had 10 units out of 20 turnover. It was just brutal because of the economy. I had 50% vacancy within about a 6.5 week period. Our building here by UAD was the same way. We had just a nightmare scenario of turnovers and everything. You know, first month was great when we bought, and then it was kind of tailed off. But the great thing was we had positive cash flow every single month we owned it. Barely 1 month. I think we had 98-cent checks once in one of the months, but it was still positive cash flow. Seriously, one of the checks was 98 cents for the market. But we had positive cash flow every single month. The building has performed very well. We've also made some other decisions. You know, we thought that being in Detroit, we thought we were underinsured based on the performance, the projections. We layered on some additional insurance, which is going to grow profits. We're looking at possibly letting that go here in the near future. But yeah, we've had positive cash flow every month. That was the last slide. Like I said, we had returns, like I said, about half what we expected, but they're still in the mid-teens. So not bad returns on investment. Like if you look at everything all together, mid-teens is not bad. If it was on the 4 or 5% range, that I would have been shocked if that was the sheet funds already. But again, mid-teens isn't too bad in terms of what's going on in the market right now, especially when people are charging to do savings accounts now. That's UD Manor on McNichol, Detroit. Just as a quick plug, I created an apartment cash flow mind map that it's changed my process of buying an apartment building. If you're curious, you go to my Facebook page at Cash Flow Mercer. I give it away for free. You have no obligation, anything like that. So, I'll take a breath. Any questions? It's pretty straightforward. Yeah, Dave.
Are you going to do more deals in Detroit? Are you positive about Detroit? Do you want to do deals outside of Detroit? What's your feeling?
Well, my feeling is that we're headed for a period of real uncertainty and another significant leg down in the economy with what's happening with the currency and all that kind of stuff. I think it's going to impact the automotive industry significantly. And so I, right now, don't think that we're going to be doing anything in the city of Detroit. I mean, if I can find something like this that's at 70% of actual value right now, I'll buy it. I mean, I look at buildings every week. The last 3 I looked at, though, I mean, the funny thing happened when the housing market kind of rebounded with this pretend demand that's going on. All the apartment buyers got 2005 syndrome. That their buildings were what they were back in 2005, not come down on prices anymore. Look at one came on the market over in Warren, 10 in Hoover, a wonderful 45-unit building. The guy thinks it's worth, 30% more than it is right now. So I'm looking at suburban buildings going. I'm looking at, to be honest, putting together a bunch of money right now, wait through whatever's going to happen, and then pick and choose the best stuff that's available.
And what are rents at your building?
$550 for 1 bedroom, and $630 for 2s.
If you do Section 8s, or do you just do local students?
No students. No students. There's some staff in the university that have no students. I think we got 1 Section 8 now as a test. Okay. But we've been up until about 2 months ago. We didn't have any Section 8s. Got it.
Okay.
No more questions? Good Lord, I've got questions. I can call you anytime. Yeah.